You know, I've made fun of Conservative Home in the past, and I think quite rightly so. I will still say it is probably the most, and still probably is the best comedy website online if you want some good laughs. But as I've also said in the past as well, Conservative Home does offer this bizarre window into what the conservative mindset is. And it's often, as we've seen over the years when we've covered stuff from them, quite a interesting insight that we've seen coming from the Conservative Party on that front. Now, as we've obviously been more and more covering the Reform UK nonsense in these councils, one of the key parties in some of these councils that is like the main opposition party isn't Lib Dems, Labour, etc. It's actually the Conservative. And one thing I think Conservative Home, I think, does really right is it gives platforms to local Conservative councillors and really highlights like local Conservative news and stuff going on in these areas, which very often you don't see. So that is at least a bit of praise for Conservative Home on that. Good on them for that. And today we're going to be having a look at one of their councillors, in fact, the leader of the Worcestershire Conservative group on that council, about what reform have been going on there. And oh boy, is it fun. Is it fun? Because sometimes on some of these councils, you see these stories and it's like not worth making a video about. But this guy has correlated a lot of the stuff that's been going on in Worcestershire. And it's, yeah, you'll see in a moment. It's fun. Well, terrifying if you are probably a resident because, you know, good luck. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. As we've said, it's budget time soon. And we're going to see how they perform on there because this is really their first big challenge. Not only that, but they are going to be running out at the start of next year all these policies and stuff and coattails they've been riding on from previous administrations, not only just here in Worcestershire, but every single other council. They actually have to start bringing out policy. And the thing is, they never ran on policy. So what are they going to do soon? We'll find out. But before we go on more into finding out what's been going on in Worcestershire, please do, of course, remember to click on the like, share, and, of course, the subscribe button down below. It helps out the channel massively, especially now. So please do make sure that you are at least clicking the like button or even leaving a comment down below about what you think about all this. And, of course, don't forget to ring the bell as well so you get notifications of when we go live or when we drop a new video. So there are also links down below as well to help support the channel on that way. There's the Patreon page, there's the Buy Me a Coffee link where you can buy me a coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there is the YouTube membership. And of course, today is Wednesday, so that means all the Patreon members and of course the YouTube members will be getting a new members only video. So if you want to see that, and not only that video, but all the other videos that I've made about this that have been for members only, you get access to all those. We're now at like 167. I think, videos. So that was me guessing. But as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. And that way, it is absolutely, as always, fantastic. So thank you very much. So let's crack on then into this. This, of course, as we said, from Conservative Home, from Adam Kent. Conservatives, not Reform UK, are the true champions of value for money in Worcestershire. I always want to call it Worcester because, again, that's my dyslexia coming out saying how I want to pronounce it. So I'll have to see how many times I catch myself trying to catch it right on that one. But anyway, Worcestershire. So here is as he says, my frank assessment of Reform's record running the I'm doing it already, the Worcestershire since May of 2025. From the standpoint of the leader of the Conservative group that is now grounded in what has been reported locally. Again, I wish, because I know that these councillors, and sooner or later I'm going to have to try and reach out to some of these Conservative councillors to try and get them on here to talk about what's going on with some of these councils. I am going to try and approach some of the Lib Dems from Reform Watch. I can't remember the lady's name who runs Reform Watch, but I'm going to try and reach out to her to see if we can't get her on here. Maybe some of the other people who are like heading up Reform Watch, because I think that would be a good live stream. But sooner or later, I am going to have to reach out, I think, to someone like Adam Kent or, again, I can't remember the woman who runs the Conservative group in Leicestershire now, uh, to get them on to say what's going on here, because there's stuff that they say here, and then of course they know other stuff that's going on behind the scenes that they don't report about or they don't talk about, which is just as interesting. But anyway, back to this. So what we've had, of course, is culture war theatrics, resignations, U-turns, and now avoidable costs. So, flags first, services second. Within weeks, reform's focus was on flags, not even on fixing services. Well, surprise, surprise. The national flags policy row spilled into Worcestershire with the public claims and now counterclaims about what could or couldn't be flown and, of course, where. It became a needless distraction and it dominated the airtime while real issues then stacked up. Local and national coverage charted the confusion with very mixed messages about what the flags and councils would, of course, allow, with reform figures even forced into clarifications after criticisms. And then, oh yeah, leadership instability in 3 months. What a surprise. The stable leadership is at least a minimum that, of course, residents deserve. Instead, Reform's deputy leader of the county council quit just after 3 months. Exactly the sort of churn and perilous decision making. Even Reform's own statements do not explain why, and the role now had to be filled very initially on a temporary basis. But that's not a very serious way to run a county. And that's it. This guy was the one who left because apparently there was all this infighting going on behind the scenes, and they've put out some weird statements. If you remember when we covered that, Ken, a couple of months back now, yeah, it's all very weird, very weird going on. But this isn't, again, the infighting going on just in Worcestershire isn't there. It's all over these councils. But as usual, it seems they're just infighting about everything. It's not one thing; it seems to be everything. The way that that we're hearing about it. So, a cabinet, of course, for headlines, not outcomes. Well, surprise, surprise. The rhetoric, of course, has been very loud, and the delivery, of course, has been very thin. And education, we've seen an announce first, think later. Well, pretty much sums up reform right there on that one. When councils, of course, scrutinised a cabinet member over schools' plans, tempers flared, and residents were, of course, left none the wiser about how children would actually get to the places they needed, where they live. And that's not even governing, that is just firefighting. Yeah, this is, of course, because they've talked about scrapping school busing for kids that are like in rural areas that need this. This, I think, could be a major thing we see in the budget coming up, not only just in this council, in Worcestershire here, but all councils. I would not be surprised if they go after this quite heavily in the budget coming up. So, scrapping a new school, then busing children around. Reform then stepped away from plans for a new secondary school, cheered, of course, by some as now an avoiding an unsuitable site. But without now a credible plan B, that brings places closer now to families. The practical consequence is now more children being bused now across the county, some up to 2 hours a day, paid for by day-to-day revenue, loading yet now even more pressures onto an already massive home-to-school transport bill. Worcestershire already transports around 10,000 pupils daily. Choosing to transport over local places is now the costliest, least child-friendly fix. I mean, that to me is unbelievable. The fact that you're going to set up a new secondary school, but you say, "Oh, sorry, this is completely an unsuitable site." Well, okay, what was the plan B? As you said, it's a valid point. If you're going to say that is a suitable site, which is the other suitable site then? Because this would have mean you could have actually saved money on busing kids around. Why did they not build this? Oh, sorry, unsuitable site. Then where is another suitable site? Where is the better plan B? We are seeing this, bear in mind, not only just on this council, but we are seeing this, and I'm hearing a lot of this, that they are doing completely and absolutely short-sighted decision making. If they are getting pushback, even the slightest amount, they are cancelling plans, and then they don't have a credible alternative to try and solve the problem that the problem they cancelled was trying to solve to begin with. This is going to end up with some very, very bad consequences. Very bad consequences for a lot of areas. So, the first resignation and allowances without attendance. So, back to this. So, one of course, Reform's new councillors has now just resigned within months, having even failed to attend a single council meeting. Well, surprise, surprise on that one. A Reform councillor not attending a council meeting? Imagine my shock. Anyway, when public posts on social media now showed a very different level of activity. Local coverage has obviously now rightly raised calls for allowances now to be repaid to taxpayers. The public office is a duty, not a direct debit. Which, hey, if the Conservatives are actually going to like pursue this and go after reform to repay these allowances, absolutely go after them on it. Absolutely. And then this is the other uh insane thing I've seen them do, because I was going to do a story about this, but it wasn't really long enough. But this is even more interesting. So, cut the perks while eating the pastries. So, Reform talked tough about trying to scrap food for council meetings. This then followed reports at their own now senior figures, including President Zia and the Doge team, now being served pastries and a salad platter on the public tab, while now pushing to try and end lunches for everyone else. If you are not serious about savings, you actually have to start with yourself. And that's the insane thing that they're trying to do. Oh, we can't provide councillors with food. No, this is just a unnecessary expense. We're going to cut all this. Meanwhile, of course, when Zia Yusuf and the Doge team turn up, oh, bring out the pastries and the salad platter, please. Unbelievable. So the pattern: performative politics equals real world costs. So added up: rows over flags, a deputy leader gone in 3 months, chaotic education messaging, scrapping a new school to bus children even further to a higher cost, a councillor now resigning without even attending, the performative no lunch policies undercutting now by catered meetings. This is not what residents actually voted for. It is now noise over service, slogans over delivery, and short-term headlines over long-term value. I get the irony. I get the irony, because probably a lot of you are probably looking at this going, wasn't that just previously like the previous Conservative administration? And yes, you are exactly right. I do see the irony in this as well. I don't know if they see the irony in this as well either. Criticizing a again another party for uh you know short-term wins over long-term value. I don't know if they get the irony of that. But there you go. So of course he goes on to sort out what they would do, of course, on this. Um, on this front, which again is fine. Places near homes, not coaches near budgets. Get a grip on now the homeschool transport, of course. Yeah, makes sense. Standard again. This is interesting. Standards in public office. Councillors who do not show up shouldn't cash in. We will back very clear rules on the recovery allowances where appropriate. Which, hey, absolutely, absolutely. I think all councils, I think, should do that. And I think now, and I think any council with the potential threat of reform taking over should absolutely push this and get it through now. You've got time to do it. So, of course, again, goes talks on that holding them to account and trying to get good value for taxpayers. as always, bringing up stuff that is just when you hear about it is unbelievable. Generally unbelievable. But this is the type of stuff that's gone on just in the first, you know, couple of months. And these guys are in for like 4 years. That's a long time. And this is how they are acting now. Bear in mind, budget time is just around the corner. What are they, we are in, I can guarantee you now, we are in for an exciting couple of months. September, October, probably going to be roughly about the same. But oh boy, once we get into December, where they're expected to be putting forward, these budgets to then be voted on in February, things are going to get very busy indeed. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think about all this, especially, of course, if you are a resident of Worcestershire. What's your opinion on this? I'm always interested to know, because I am getting, of course, people who are residents of this commenting about this. And I think some of them, they are shocked themselves when they hear about all this, because to be fair, some of this stuff, local news doesn't get sometimes boosted that too much, which again, I can understand that, but it's always shocking. So, as always, do let me know what you think, of course, in the comments down below. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.